Hi, my name is John Blair and I'm going to show you how to use your Umbraco 8 plugin that you've developed for the back office on the front end pages with AngularJS. The agenda for this video then is we'll take a look at comment maintenance application consisting of a comment plugin in the back office of Umbraco, which includes user comment directives for use on the front end. We'll take a look at the application architecture from a coding perspective. We'll then dive into the detail of the back office section, and we'll take a look at how the back office plugin directives can be used on the front end. Okay, this is a quick overview of the sample application which maintains comments. So what we have is a user comments page which we've got here, and the whole point of the plugin is to produce a comment section for individual pages and allow you to enter your name if you're a guest user, i.e. not logged in. If you are logged in, it will default to your name. So in this case, Simon Peters. I have plenty to say about this. So adds a comment, and then it will just get added to the bottom of the comment section. And the way this is done is what I have is when I create a page, I have a page section container, and I've just created a user comment section, which you can see here. It's got two properties, just disable comments, so it will hide the section and prevent a guest user, if you only want logged in users, to create comments. And just looking quickly at how this is managed, if we take a look at the template, we can see here that the JB user comments directive is the one that manages the comments, and there's two modes of use here. One for if the user's not logged in, then we just give the page that we're managing comments for. If the user is logged in, we give the user's name and the Umbraco user ID just for logging against the comment. And that's basically how comments are managed in our front end section. If we look at the back office, then what we see is the plugin creates this utilities section, which has just got one item in the tree for comment management, and we see that it's got two tabs, one for all the comments. You can see there's our Simon Peters comment that we edit, that we could update or delete or do whatever we want. There's a second tab which is basically the front end directives that are possible. In this case it's just a single directive, but in principle there could be multiple, and you can see that that you can just enter a comment much like you do on the front end, and that appears here. What you'll notice is the styling of the directive is different in the back office. That's because the back office is still tied to Bootstrap 2, whereas my theme on the front end is tied to Bootstrap 3. So there's different directive styling in the back end to the front end. That's one change. And just for comparison, what you'll see is that this is largely based on a discuss section that I have. That tends to use social media logins, but if you've got some applications that you just want to restrict logins to Umbraco users, then you could use the comment section instead. Okay, we'll take a look at the plugin architecture then. As you can see in Visual Studio, I just get a standard C# library to create the plugin JB section utilities. This is not a video to show you how to create a plugin. You can take a look at my other video, how to create an Umbraco plugin, that just focuses on the details of creating a plugin. This video shows you how to structure your plugin such that you can reuse certain parts of it on the front end. So the structure of most of my plugins take is they use a gulp file to generate a build directory which contains the plugin itself. In this case it's JB Utilities, which has CSS images. It's got all the back office views and directives. In particular, the front end will be using this user comments directive, and the JavaScript for the plugin. Normally I would just have one directives JavaScript file, but I split it up into two. There's user directives, which just contains the directives for the user on the front end page. Same with resources. I'd normally just have a single resource file, but if some of those resources are to be reused in the front end, I split those out into a separate, in this case, user resources file. We'll take a look at those. So my plugin has a build directory for the plugin. It's got all the client side JavaScript, and I separate this out into directories for filters, for models, for resources, for services, for views, etc. So that's the client, and then the server side will contain controllers. The relevant ones in this case are the comments API controller, which is used in the back office, and the user comments API controller, which is used in the front end pages. Both of these make use of a JSON camel case formatter that allows camel case standard JavaScript use in models on front end JavaScript that matches back end Pascal case C# models. So we take a look at the relevant or the key files. What we'll see is package manifest itself. So we give it a name, JB Utilities. That's I want to basically add loads of utilities in this, not just comments. So it'll be a kind of container for utilities. This particular plugin's got a dashboard, and we have the dashboard content there, and then list the JavaScript files that come with it. We have the key one modules, which lists all the JavaScript modules. We'll take a look at that in a minute, and then all the supporting files. We'll see here that we've got resources and user resources. Again, the split in resources, front end, back end, and same with directives, back-end directives, front-end directives. Everything else is common, and we've got the back office CSS. So that's the manifest for the plugin. We take a look at the modules. What we can see is this plugin is dependent on the Umbraco modules, and I've separated the plugin out into its own filters: directive, resources, services, and models. And notice that the resources module will also contain the user resources and just clarifying some of the dependencies. The resources is dependent on the models, as is the services. And finally, we make the Umbraco package dependent on JB utilities. So as I said, we've got a C# comment model, and we've got a JavaScript client equivalent. As you'll see, so I'll get the camel case naming, which is standard JavaScript, and we make that is available in the models directory. Resources, what we find is the back office resources will make use of the Umbraco request helper to actually communicate with the server. It does so on the URL Umbraco back office JB utilities comments API. We'll see that there's a comments API controller, and this is just a standard resource that taps into all the methods available on the comments API controller. So get, create, update, delete. We then have the user comments resource, which is used on the front end, and this is the same. This is located in the same plugin area, but there's a different controller, the user comments API. This is a subset of the comments API. So I'll use get all, create, and additionally get all for content, because this will return all the comments for an individual page. And for instance, this one, I'll make the request to get the comments for the page, the response comes back, and the comment builder will just take the JSON and generate an array of comment models for use on the front end for the Angular binding. So that's the models, the resources. User comments is just some styling to go with the Bootstrap 2. Essentially, I copy this into my main website and just change the styling entries for use on the front end section. But we take a look at the controllers. What we can see on the server side, incidentally, there's the model. So we'll create a JB comment table in SQL Server, and we just structure it this way, and that'll match the JavaScript comment model, except it's got camel case for one IDs, which the JSON camel case formatter manages the transition between. So the comment API, so that'll be located in the Umbraco back office JB Utilities comments API path that we see in the comment resource. Now, if we take a look at the resource for the front end directives, then what we can see is it's in the same location but using the user comments API. Now the way that is able to work is rather than using an authorized controller, we use a standard Umbraco API controller, but what we say is we use its back office attribute to indicate that it's in the /Umbraco /back office area. We also give this a plugin controller, JB Utilities, which is the same as the Umbraco authorized controller. Now, what that effectively allows us to do is we can use this base URL Umbraco back office JB Utilities with the user comments API and our front end pages. So that's the real secret to using your back office controllers and your front end without needing to be authorized as a logged in back office user. So that's is back office plugin controller, and as I say, I use my camel case formatter to transition my Pascal case to camel case for transfer of data between the components, and that effectively wraps up the application architecture. Okay, we'll take a look at the back office plugin utility section, which has the comments plugin. So here we can see it's a single tree with one item, and the tree has two tabs, comments and user comments. The comments is a full CRUD for all the comments in the database. And also creates and ping for invalid. And then there's the user comments, which is directive designed mainly for use on the front end, but having it in a tab in the back end allows for testing of it before you distribute it to front end users. So we take a look at the code structure for the back office. What we can see is that in the server side tree controller, we just have a single comments tab, which is what we saw on the front end. Then what we see is that we have a tabs factory that creates comments in the user comments tab, so that's two tabs, which are here, comments and user comments. And whenever the comments in the tree is loaded, we pull out those two tabs and we set the comments to be the active one. Then what we see is that the way the comments is structured is I have this kind of flex box And so what we find is that generally we'll display the tabs at the top, then we'll have a flex box, and I use that just to keep buttons down at the bottom. So as a flex box, the body grows but pushes everything else, the buttons down to the bottom, keeps it there. So that's that, and then the JB comments is the directive that actually takes care of all the CRUD operation. So JB comments use all the Angular hookups, and that's the HTML for the directive that you see in here. So supporting that and all these other buttons. Then we've got similar one for the user comments tab. You'll see it's a similar structure. These directives are just back office only, JB panel, flexbox, JB tabs, etc. The one that we're pushing to the front end is the JB user comments, and I just hard coded to an ID of 0 to give us something to test the directive with. So if you take a look at the front end, you can see that JB user comments takes care of the content within here. So that JB user comments, that's the same directive that we use in the front end, and we can see in this case it takes 3 optional attributes: member ID, name, content ID, and pretty basic Angular stuff. Makes use of our user comment resource, get all the comments for one content page, and incidentally, what I tend to do is on my dates I use UTC format and store them as UTC times on the server, because what I found is that this will prevent any time zone change on perceived dates. If we were in British summertime, for instance, the UTC might be 1 hour behind. So if you just retrieve those days from SQL Server and truncated the time component, you might find that the date day displays as 1 day earlier than it ought to be. So working in UTC dates everywhere avoids time zone issues. And here's the template for the user comment. So we just have a create form, and then we have a list of comments that have already been entered for that form. And what we notice is with Angular's basic binding, ng bind, that will HTML escape input such as script tags and things like that, so they'll just display as script text and not actually run as script. So that wraps up the server side. So I've got a tree, 2 tabs, and got the user comments directive that we'll use on the front end. Okay, let's take a look at how the front end is put together. So this is from here, this is the JB user comments that we had in the back office. So that's the directive in the back office that we're reusing on the front end. So we'll just see how that is done. Incidentally, this is my move away from what I traditionally do, like on my contact page. This is an Ajax form that will tap into a Surface controller using standard MVC rather than Angular. So I'm moving away from this approach to an Angular approach. So if we take a look at the back office, what we can see is that the way I structure my pages is I just add any number of sections to them. So for instance, accordions, carousels, contact details, discus, footers, grids, headers, iframes, sitemaps, you name it. So video, playlists, everything's just a section. So I have components and I just compose pages the way I see fit. So I've now added a user comment section which has two properties: disable the comments, which just won't show any comments for that section on the page, and disable guest comments, forcing an Umbraco user to log in. So if we take a look at that, we can see well, that's just that's this section. That then gets used in a page. As I said, I've got these sections containers that will let me add any number of sections. In this case, I've just added a user comment section. All my pages tend to have a title section. So if we have a look at the user's comments, we can see that the basic template for it, and the key part is it reuses the plugins, user comments, directive, and I'll just show you now how that was made to work. So we look at Visual Studio. And rather than looking at the plugin, I'm looking at the main website. We looked previously at the GB section utilities plugin that then gets loaded into the app plugins folder, GB utilities, and it has all the scripts that we covered earlier. Two crucial ones: the user directives and the user resources, together with the views come into play. So we can see the user comments, the HTML, the directive views, etc. But the way this is pulled together into the front end is if we take a look at the project view start, we'll see it uses the master template. And the master template is what I updated to now pull in Angular, and I use the same version as Umbraco 8, so 1.7.5 I think it was. So then loaded that, and I also make use of Moment, which is built into Umbraco, but if you want to use it in the front end, you have to add it directly. So then I constructed the modules that I wanted to use in my app. The same modules as the back end. We'll take a look at that in a minute, and you'll notice that for front end directive reuse, I just tap into the files in the plugin that I created, and as template. Then the main Angular app I set on my HTML element, and that's it basically. So in the modules, as we saw, I tie my front end to the JB app. It uses 3 other modules which we create here, and resources is dependent on the models. Directives and resources are the same as the back end, so we'll see that the directives just contains the user comments directive in this case, and the resources just contains the user comments resource, which taps into the user comments API. So we can see that in the user comments template, we saw before that we're now able to tap into the JB user comments that then uses the user resource and is able to get the info needed from the server. I also mentioned that the styling on the front end is a copy of the CSS from the back end. I just use Blair in Web Compiler, so change the back office CSS just to work with Bootstrap 3, and as I said, I've got multiple page sections, so I separate each section by 20 pixels, and then I just have CSS for every individual section that I do, and on the front end I wrap things in panels, so in this case it was a comments panel, and then we have the content, which is the same as the back office, and that's that. So that allows the comment to be used on the front end. Well, that brings us to the end of this tutorial. You can see the plugin in action on the website on screen. There's a sample page for the user comments, and there's a sample page on the Discus alternative. Finally, I've pushed this up to Nougat, so if you want to pull down the package, you are more than welcome. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.